I've noticed that the online discussions about the election have gone really quiet. And it's not just the censorship, because this is the same way on censorship-free sites. The only people that I really see talking about it anymore are those who are promoting some sort of uprising, whether we're talking about an outright civil war, martial law imposed by the Trump administration, or secession of the states. And I'm worried that we might be in the calm before the storm. This is an explosive situation, and when people lose faith in the electoral system, then that does leave them with very few options. It's why election integrity matters so much. I can't say a lot on the topic of rebellion or taking back the country, but I do want to restate something that I stated about a month ago. Because I urged people back then to get involved in their state politics. And I think that in a sense I made a mistake by saying state politics, when people need to get involved actually at the more local level. People need to get involved in their communities. We need to start forming communities. We don't really have communities anymore, do we? I mean, not like you had back in the day where people actually knew each other. You know, we don't know our neighbors even most of the time. And so what I would like to urge you to do is to get involved in your city, in your county, and don't think that local politics aren't important. In a very real sense, they're more important. Because tyrants at the state and federal level, in the United States at least, rely on local police and sheriff's departments to enforce their will. And we can choose our mayors. We can choose our sheriffs. We can choose who makes city policies in the case of city councils, etc. We can choose our district attorneys and choose those who aren't afraid of the left. This is where George Soros has been putting his money. And he's evil, but he's also a genius. He knows what he's doing. He knows the power in district attorneys. He's like a James Bond supervillain. But really, it's a lot easier also to change things at the city or county level because, frankly, there are just fewer voters that you have to reach, right, to actually achieve meaningful change. And local elections don't typically have the same fraud problems that other larger elections have. But also, if you can, run for any position, run for some position, or at least support somebody who will. And I'm generally of the position that someone who governs best governs least. I'm not saying that you should spend all your time, in that office writing new rules for citizens to live by. I think we need far fewer rules. If you want to spend your days doing something, spend your days vanquishing those rules and refusing to infringe on the rights of your fellow citizens. Protect your community and your family from tyranny. And we're getting to the point where it's kind of like, why not run? Because increasingly you're not going to be able to work. This may be your only way to get a paying job. If you do get involved in state level politics though, one of the things that should be a priority for all of us is to change the power of executive orders. Governors should not be kings. They are not supposed to be kings. That is not the way America was made. And under the guise of having emergency powers, in a lot of states, governors have way too much power. They can basically say, well, it's an emergency, and therefore I can infringe upon the rights of all my citizens and do whatever it is that I want. Like here in North Carolina, for example, there is a law that criminalizes violation of an executive order. And, a person who violates the executive order gets a misdemeanor and jail time. Well, there's no oversight for those executive orders. The governor just writes what he wants and suddenly you can be thrown away for it. That's not the way it's supposed to work. In order for people to go to jail, you're supposed to have an actual real law that was put in place by the legislature, which you can petition, by the way, your legislature, to get things changed. Now, under the power of these emergency powers, things have gone really kind of dark. Like I said, they shouldn't be kings. And this is one thing that we need to focus on at the state level, is to eliminate these emergency powers. Because if it were a real emergency, Americans would band together. Americans have always banded together in real emergencies, just not for fake ones. They don't surrender their rights to fake ones. It's kind of like if you had a virus that was so bad that, you had carts going up and down the street saying, "Bring out your dead." And, the government said, you know what, we could save everybody by just, if everyone just wore a mask. You wouldn't have to mandate the masks, now would you? People would be more than happy to put a mask on, if that actually worked and if you had a virus that was really bad. But that's not the situation that we're living in. So, what we need is actually close-knit communities, like we used to have. And increasingly, due to actually, I think in large part the internet, ironically enough, we've become kind of further apart from each other. We don't really know our local communities as much, and we tend to ignore what happens at the local level. But it's the sheriff's department or the police department that's going to be your enforcer. That's where, frankly, maybe the thugs are who would actually show up at your door and try and, interrupt your Christmas gathering for having too many people there. That's who's being used, and that's all we need to have, the sheriff who actually cares about people's rights, and the police chief who does, or at least the police chief who is afraid of the mayor. The mayor is the person who you elect. You don't elect a police chief. These are the things that we need to start working on, and I see so few people actually pushing for this, but really, if you want to make sure that your local community is safe and free, I think we need to start working toward that directly. Wait, if you enjoyed that video, please remember to like and share. I can't grow without you. Also, if you want to be reliably notified of new videos, don't forget to subscribe to the newsletter. If you're able to support the production of these videos, I'd appreciate it if you'd subscribe at Subscribestar, or maybe get one of the healthier products, or even get some merch.